Capital City Sports, your source for sports at USC. I'm Meredith Harvey.
And I'm Jonathan Hilliard. We've got a great show for you, including highlights from college and the pros. Coming up on this edition of Capital City Sports, the first pitch was thrown last week in Major League Baseball. We'll tell you who's hot and who's not early in the season.
And the Columbia Stingers return home for more indoor football action on Saturday. We've got the highlights and analysis from the Colonial Center.
And Steve Spurrier and the Gamecock football team is just days away from the spring game. We'll tell you what to look for during Saturday's festivities.
Let's get the show started with Ray Tanner and the USC baseball team.
The Gamecocks took on the Florida Gators in Gainesville, Florida this weekend in a 3-game series. Let's go to McKeithen Stadium for highlights. On Sunday, Gamecocks taking on the Gators after splitting the first 2 games in the first inning is James Darnell jumping on the pitch, knocking it out of the ballpark, giving the Gamecocks the early lead 1-0. But it'd be all Gators for a while. In the first inning, this is Brian Leclerc with the single to left field. Matt Laporta, the big slugger, comes home for the Gators. They take the lead. Now, on to the 4th inning. Figueroa driving it into the gap in left field. That's going to score a run. Laporta advanced to thirds. Dendecker scores, and the Gators go up 2-1. But Travis Jones dominating the Gators this weekend. That's a home run, his 4th of the series. This is the 3rd game of the series, mind you. That's his 4th home run, bringing the Gamecocks back. It's 3-2 Florida. But bullpen struggling for South Carolina. Alex Ferrado walks in a run. That makes it 5-2 Florida. And the Gamecocks are not off the hook yet. Bases loaded, just 1 out. But in would come Jeff Jeffords for the Carolina Gamecocks. Hard-throwing right-hander, and Jeffords on the first pitch gets the heavy hitter Matt Laporta to ground to him. The 1-2-3 double play, and the Gamecocks get out of the inning with no further damage, down 3. Now, on to the 7th inning. Jeff Jeffords still in. Gamecocks haven't come back, but Jeffords isn't allowing any more runs. He strikes out Dendecker, and the Gamecocks are still within striking distance. And in the 9th inning, guess who? Travis Jones at the plate, the transfer from Lake City Community College. He got it. Center field. Back goes the center fielder. He's not going to get that, although it was a nice try. 3-run homer. Gamecocks tie it up at 5 in the top of the 9th inning on Travis Jones' 3-run bomb. Now, in the 10th inning, Gamecocks trying to take the lead, and guess who? Travis Jones ripping it to left field. He had 5 home runs in this series and what would be the go-ahead run in this game, 6-5 Gamecocks. Gamecocks go on to win 8-6 and take 2 games of 3 in the series. Travis Jones loving it, and the Gamecocks will come back home this weekend against Auburn.
The boys of summer took the field despite winter-like temperatures last week. Find out who got off to a good start in Major League Baseball, next on Capital City Sports.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Carolina edition.
Alone and crying, boom, boom, bam. Crying, pom, pom, pom. Crying, chaka, chaka, cha. Crying is always good.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many?
Crying.
buzz driving is drunk driving.
Here we go.
After a long winter of trades and free agent signings, Major League Baseball finally hit the diamond on Monday. Let's go to Atlanta, Georgia to start off the highlights. Braves taking on the division champion New York Mets. In the first inning, it's Jose Reyes knocking one in the gap off pitcher Mark Redmond. He's going all the way to third on that one. Jose Reyes has been dominant early in this season. Looks like the go-to leadoff man in the National League. But back come the Braves. It's Jeff Francoeur. Down 2-0 are the Atlanta Braves in the fourth. Francoeur homers, makes it 2-1 Atlanta in the fourth. But the Mets were too much last Friday night. This is Reyes again in the same spot, driving it into the gap. That's another triple, scores 2 runs. The Mets go up 5-1, and they would end up holding on, defeating the Braves 11-1 in the Braves home opener. But the Braves weren't done. They would come back in this series, make it very interesting, and make themselves look like a contender for the National League East crown. This is on Sunday. David Wright, he's going to send one into right center. Andrew Jones on his horse. Glove you very much. He makes the catch. Later in the game, it's Ramon Castro. Andrew's not going to get to that one. That one's about 30 rows deep in the stands. Mets homer back-to-back in the second inning. They're up 2-1 on Kyle Davies. And Orlando Hernandez working it for the Mets. He strikes out Andrew Jones, strikes out Brian McCann. He's rolling early in this game. That's in the fourth inning. Mets hold on to a 2-1 lead. Now the eighth, they finally get Orlando Hernandez out of the game, and the Braves take advantage. Brian McCann doubles in Chipper Jones to tie the ball game, and his buddy Jeff Francoeur right behind him. He's going to double in McCann, and that makes it 3-2 Braves. The Braves go on to win, knock the Mets down to 5-2. Braves to 6-1, take first place in the NL East. Now the AL East, A-Rod struggled in the playoffs, not this year. 6 home runs in his first 7 games, gives the Yankees an early lead against Baltimore on Sunday. Now back to the Orioles. It's Paul Bako. Home run. Orioles take the lead 5-3. Andy Pettitte will be brought in relief for the Orioles, for the Yankees, because their bullpen has been so stretched out this week. Now Orioles facing A-Rod again, walks him. They're finally getting smart. Hideki Matsui can't take advantage. He flies out to center field. Yankees struggling with their starting pitching, and it showed in this series. Here comes Melky Cabrera to try to salvage the game, but he grounds out to second. Orioles win this one and take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees early in the season. Now on to the Cardinals and Astros. Albert Pujols, the best hitter in the game statistically, started 1 for 17 on the season. He was struggling, but you can't hold him back for long. He homers, gives his defending World Series champion Cardinals the lead, and that would be all Cardinals pitching needed on this day. Here comes Kip Wells, former Pirate picked up by the Cardinals in the offseason. He threw 7 innings, allowed 1 hit, struck out 7 batters, and the Cardinals hold on to beat the Astros. Astros struggling early in this season. Wondering if they're going to get Roger Clemens back. Don't know yet. But on to the Cubs and the Brewers. In the first inning, Jeff Jenkins with a long ball in Miller Park. The Brewers go up 2-0. Gabe Gross right behind him. That's 3-0 Brewers in Miller Park. Brewers a trendy pick to win the NL Central in the 2007 season, but back come the Cubs. This is Derek Lee driving one into the gap off Chris Capuano, pitcher for the Brewers. That double is going to score 2 runs, make it 3-2 Brewers. Cubs trying to come back, but Derek Turnbow turning them right back. Brewers go on to win this game and take 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. Now on to the Phillies and Marlins back in the NL East. It's Ryan Howard doubling early in this game. That'll score 2 runs, and the Phillies take an early lead despite struggling to start out the season. Now it's Hanley Ramirez for the Marlins. Hot shot to short, but he comes up lame running to first. This young star for the Marlins put on the DL with a hamstring injury. That could be big for them, but this young star is not hurt. Miguel Cabrera lining one down the line. That's going to score 2 runs. Marlins go up 5-3. Miguel Cabrera, early candidate for the MVP award in the National League. And the Marlins are in second place in the NL East after winning 2 out of 3 from the Phillies.
With baseball in full swing, there's a lot to break down. For in-depth analysis, let's go to Alex Riley and the men of the boardroom.
Welcome to the SEC room. home of your Carolina Gamecocks and Capital C Sports' boardroom this week. I'm Alex Riley, chairman of the board. With me, Ed Cahill, associate producer of Capital C Sports Television. How you doing, Ed?
Doing good. Ready to talk some sports.
All right, let's jump right into it. Let's start off. Let's go a little farther south than we normally would. Let's go to Atlanta Braves baseball.
Yes, sir.
Season opener last week, and things starting to get fired up. Are the Braves back? Are we talking about contention for the NL?
I think they really are back. And coming into the season, I was very skeptical. But the moves they made in the bullpen. They blew 26 saves, I think, last year, and only finished about 16 games behind the Mets. And so you take away 20 of those blown saves and a better bullpen, and you're right in there in the race. And they've come out swinging. They've had good pitching. Tim Hudson bounced back, looked great. And I really think if not compete for the AL East, which I think they can with the Mets and the Phillies, who are 1-6 right now and just looking horrible, I think the Braves can at least definitely compete for a wild card spot in the NL.
Well, John Smoltz came out, had a hot start against the Mets, and just has been pitching well to start off things. But one of the big players in that bullpen already goes down early in the season. Mike Hampton goes down to a almost halfway through the season ending injury. I mean, is this just the biggest blow that they could throw at Atlanta right now?
It's really not to me. They said they were counting on Hampton to come into the starting rotation and be a contributor. But in the past 3 years, you couldn't really count on Mike Hampton at all. And we've got young arms to make up for it. And Hampton, at best, I would never be confident in saying he's going to come in and give you a good full season of work. And to me, it just seems like he is content with sitting on the bench and picking up his paycheck every year. And I know he's got a torn ligament in his elbow, and that's nothing you can really fake. But I think he might need to step up his rehab program or something, because he's just getting injured every year.
I don't know what it is. Hampton, ever since he's come to the Braves, has just been a walking time bomb of injuries.
Yes.
Every time he seems to get on a little bit of a hot streak and starts to get a little better and feel better about his arm, he tears something or sprains something or something gets bruised, and next thing you know, he's on the DL for however long it takes to finish out a season.
Yeah, and he also this week made ESPN's highest or most undeservingly paid players list for the 7th straight year, and I think that's definitely true.
Do you think that with the Braves coming back so strong as they are, and with the success that they're having and are going to have and the depth they're bringing, do you think this is a team that's a contender for the NL? And if not, who is the contender that we could be seeing in the World Series at the end of the year for the NL?
I think they're a contender, but really looking at the teams in the NL, I really had to say that the Mets are really the team to beat, as much as I hate to say that. I tried to look in the Central for a team, but the Central is a real strong division, and they're going to have to be playing within each other. I'm not convinced that the Cubs are a team to beat, and the Cardinals are real banged up right now. So I have to say the best team in the NL is in the East right now, and the Mets and the Braves are just going to have to battle it out. But the Mets lineup is just stacked, and if they can get good pitching, they're going to be tough to beat come October. Real
quick before we move on to college baseball, A-Rod, obviously there's been a lot of questions in New York about was all the money worth it? 5 or 6 games, he's hit home runs now. I mean, is this the big money trade that we're all hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, 5 games, 6 games, 5 home runs. He's the only Yankee to ever do that. And just for him to come out and get a good start in New York, I think it was important for him to get the fans behind him, and so he can get on through the season and have a season like the Yankees expect him to.
All right, let's move a little closer to home. Let's talk some Carolina baseball. Obviously, a big weekend last weekend when they got 2 out of 3 from Florida, playing Clemson this week on Wednesday. They're going to throw a guy on the hill by the name of Thomas, who nobody knows anything about. I mean, this guy he was a freshman who pitched a little bit, got injured last year. Now he's a redshirt sophomore. I mean, what are you expecting out of this rotation? I mean, every time you turn around, some new faces had to step up. Ray Tanner said Mike Cisco was unavailable today, but not injured. I mean, what about this rotation?
Well, I think we've got 2 mainstays in Harris Honeycutt and Blake Cooper. Now, today at the press conference, he said Blake Cooper may not start that Sunday game, but he did have a rough game at Florida. But overall, I think as a freshman, he's been impressive. He's got a live arm, he's got good stuff, and he can start you off with something other than a fastball. He's consistent with all of his off-speed pitches, which is what Mike Cisco was really struggling with. But I think if maybe we can get Jay Brown back and maybe pull someone from that bullpen, whether it be Atwood or Pelzer to come in there and contribute, I think we'll be all right. But we just need to get that set 3 coming in later in the season. That way everyone knows their roles going into regionals.
What about Eric Kempe? I mean, this is a guy who has been, hampered by injuries a little bit, come back strong this year, but they haven't thrown him to the Wolves yet. They're thinking about throwing him to the Wolves on Saturday, letting him go as long as he can against Auburn, which is going to be a big series for Carolina, especially at home. I mean, do you think that this is a good place for him to start to get back to normal?
I think it is. We're getting into the meat of SEC play right now, and they need to figure out if he's going to be a contributor to the rotation, and, I mean, what a better team to do it than against Auburn.
Real quick before we wrap it up, Win Pelzer. This is a guy who has been as inconsistent as anybody on the staff, a guy who comes in, lets a couple guys get on base from time to time and just seems to have meltdowns. Do you think that Win Pelzer can contribute at all to this team, and if so, where do you think he's going to fit in?
I don't think he's going to be the closer, I'll tell you that much. I've seen him pitch plenty of times this weekend. He just gets rattled too easily to be that shutdown ninth-inning guy. But I think he could be a decent starter, and maybe a weekday starter, and maybe contribute middle in the bullpen on weekend series. But I think we might see Jeff Jeffords move into the closer role. He throws hard and is pretty consistent, so I think he could definitely sneak into that closer's role.
Well, with the performance Jeff Jeffords had against Florida on that Sunday game, his longest stint, certainly a contender for that spot. And Pelzer, if you throw him at some mid-major teams on these midweek games, they're not going to see a fastball like that for a long time. That wraps up things for now. Join us later as we talk a little college football in the boardroom.
Football is in season next on Capital City Sports as we get you all caught up on the Stingers and the Gamecocks. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
It's a war.
I have never, ever had that question asked of me. You really don't have to go to Haiti to see third world medicine.
We have to deal with the problems of our abuse.
Good shouldn't have to suffer with the bad.
What would you give not to die? To whom much is given, much is expected.
After a slow start, the Columbia Stingers indoor football team was ready to get back on track. Let's go to the Colonial Center for more on the Stingers and the Greensboro Revolution.
Hopefully we can have a big crowd. ESPN put it on TV, ESPN 2 from 2 to 4. So looking forward to hopefully having a fine performance. We encourage all of our fans that can be here to come. It's a fundraiser for our Academic Learning Center. We don't have one. Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, they all got one. We need one. But anyway, all right. Hopefully we'll have a good crowd here and have some fun, and some of these guys will really play well.
Any improvements over Friday?
Any improvements tonight from Friday? Oh, I don't know. Blake threw some good passes. Blake had some good plays in the scrimmage. Our other quarterbacks are struggling a little bit right now. But anyway, we'll see how it goes Saturday on TV. Chris Smalley will probably get to play for one team the whole game. Tommy Beecher actually sprained his shoulder. On one of those interceptions, he went diving for the guy in the end zone and sprained his shoulder just a little bit. So there's a chance he may not be able to play. So Chris Smalley will get a chance to throw about 30, 35 balls. See if he can hit a few.
I know this isn't your final product, but has there been more separation in the quarterbacks than you would like to have seen this spring?
Well, they all struggled the first scrimmage, but Blake was by far the best the last scrimmage. But they've all done a few good things here and there. But it's a long summer. You know, I just told Chris Smalley if he'll throw about 400 of those cover 2 fade routes this summer, he might be able to hit one when the season starts. But if he doesn't, then he'll never hit one. Yeah, you got to practice these throws, and we can't watch them all the time. So hopefully we can give them a plan to what to do through the summer, and they'll go do it.
Steve, the Corey boy have practice?
Yeah, he has class.
Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre is on offense now. Lemuel Jean-Pierre is coming over to offensive guard to help our offensive line, and I predict he'll be a starter by the first game next year. Louisiana Lafayette.
We are questions of the scrimmage from watching the video.
Oh, it wasn't anything to brag about. You talking about ours or Oklahoma?
No, your scrimmage.
Oh, our scrimmage.
One on Friday.
Oh, it wasn't. It was a good scrimmage in that nobody got hurt, and that we got a lot of plays in, and hopefully guys can learn from it. But nothing exciting.
Play as well as you thought initially.
Actually, they had a few good plays here and there. Defense had 2 defensive scores again, and that's why they point-wise won the scrimmage. Yeah.
What makes you think Jean-Pierre will start right away?
Oh, I just think he's got the ability to do it and the commitment. I mean, he'll be here all summer lifting, working out, learning the plays. He's that type of young man, and those type you got to get on the field.
Now for a preview of what to look for in this Saturday's Garnet and Black game, let's throw it to Alex Riley in the Capital City Sports Boardroom.
Welcome back to the SEC room for more of Capital City Sports Boardroom. And let's just go ahead and jump right into things. College football, obviously the spring game is Saturday. What are you looking forward to at Saturday?
I'm looking for the offense to really step up. I'd like to see at least one long pass to a Kenny McKinley or Larry Freeman instead of like 4 15-yard pickups. And I'm looking for a receiver to come out like Larry Freeman or maybe a Jared Cook at tight end if they want to move into wide receiver, to just open it up a little bit for Kenny McKinley, because I think Kenny McKinley can make plays, but he needs someone else to take some of the pressure, take some of the safeties off him underneath.
Well, I got to go to the Friday scrimmage last week, and I got to tell you, offense actually looks okay if they can get past that offensive line. The big story coming out of camp this week, Lemuel Jean-Pierre makes the move from D-line to O-line. Now, the D-line is stacked. There's no lie about that. Those guys are 3 and 4 deep at some spots, particularly on the ends with guys like Norwood playing. You can drop a guy like Casper Brinkley if you have to, but he's going to stick at more of a linebacker position. I mean, this is the unit that could be the deepest at Carolina. They've been abusing the quarterbacks all spring, blowing up that offensive line. I mean, do you think that moving Pierre to that side of the ball is a good thing?
I think it is, and it shows that we got depth on the defensive side. And if you can take an athlete on the defensive end and put him on the offensive line, maybe give your offensive line some more tenacity that we're lacking, that's going to help. But also with the offensive line, I think they're going to come along as the season comes along. They're facing a pretty deep and pretty talented defensive line in those spring drills. So I think they may be a little overmatched right now.
How about the offensive specialists in particular? I mean, we've talked so much about the quarterback play this spring so far. Nobody has really stepped up and been this, all-world beater type quarterback. Blake Mitchell's shown moments of greatness. Tommy Beecher's even shown moments of greatness. I mean, what are you expecting out of the quarterback position in particular?
Well, I think Blake Mitchell, he's been through a lot of spring practices right now, and for Blake, this probably isn't too big a deal. So when it comes time for the season to come around, I expect Blake to step it up. But Tommy Beecher's, he's pressing him. I don't think he's going to play in the spring game. I think he has a shoulder injury. And also Chris Smelly's, he's looked lost this spring, and I just don't see him really even pushing Beecher for that second spot this season.
Do you think maybe Garcia could come in late in the fall and push
I was
that
actually
second
thinking
spot?
about that today. I thought to myself, will Chris Smelly ever start a game in a Gamecock uniform? And I thought about Garcia coming up. Maybe because of Smelly's poor play, that's probably the only way Garcia would avoid a red shirt this season, because 4 deep at quarterback just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And so I think if Smelly continues to struggle, he's already used his medical red shirt, and I can see Garcia stepping up to that third spot, just a little out of depth. If say Beecher or Mitchell goes down, then you don't want to have to go down to Smelly if he's struggling.
Well, the other position that's catching a lot of notice is the wide receiver position. Jared Cook had a couple of drop touchdown passes in that Friday scrimmage. Just still got the stone hands or the frying pan hands at times. Kenny McKinley looks solid. Larry Freeman coming along quite well. The quarterbacks and the wide receivers just don't seem to be on the same page right now. What's Steve Spurrier got to do to get his normal cock and fire offense up and rolling?
No, it's still early, and I think we may see some of that finally in this spring game with two set teams playing against each other and playing hard in front of a lot of fans. I think you might actually see some like Larry Freeman step up. That's what I'm really looking for this weekend, is for Larry Freeman to step up, grab a couple big passes, just to show that we're at least 2 deep at wide receiver until those freshmen come in next fall.
And if you didn't get to see it Friday in the scrimmage, Corey Boyd, heck of a running back. This guy goes on a 70-yard scamper off a little dump pass with one shoe on, almost to the end zone, finally gets pushed out of bounds by Captain Munnerlyn. That's one position that's locked up. Yes, Corey Boyd with one shoe on is better than any other running back in the SEC, ladies and gentlemen.
Agreed.
That's all for the boardroom for this week. Tune in next week. I'm Alex Riley, Fred Cahill. Have a great day, Columbia.
To see more from us and other shows on SGTV, go to www.youtube.com/SGTV online. I'm Meredith Harvey.
And I'm Jonathan Hilliard. We'll see you next week on Capital City Sports.
All right, let's go ahead and start off with, of course, the most prevalent.
Let's start out with the most prevalent.
Don't bother me. Welcome to the Capital City Sports Boardroom. I'm Alex Riley, chairman of the board this week. With me, Michael Aguilar, staff writer of the Daily Gamecock. Glad to be here, Aguilar.
Glad to be here as well, Riley.
What was that? What am I supposed to say that?
Dude, I'm so tired.
Glad to be here, Aguilar.
All right, keep me posted.
I know, but I can't see, and the wind is blowing, and my eyes hurt. I'm Meredith Harvey.
And I'm Jonathan Hilliard, and it's cold outside Columbia, so cuddle up to a buddy. I'm Jonathan Hilliard.
And I'm Meredith Harvey. Make sure to wear SPF 15, Columbia. You come stand here and burn your corneas, okay? Because it's not pleasant.
I'm putting you come stand here and burn your corneas in the blooper reel. I'm Jonathan Hilliard.
And I'm Meredith Harvey. Lean back, Columbia.
2.
Sorry, I'm starting.
Look at it, it's the men of Capital City Sports Talk. I can't believe it. I'm Jonathan Hilliard.
And I'm Meredith Harvey. Keep it sunny side up, Columbia.
Capital City Sports, I'm Jonathan Hilliard, and I suck.
Have a great break.
Oh!
Do you want to come do a shot?
Good to hear.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.